G'day! Welcome back to another assembly and review video, with this one being AFV Club's 1/35th scale Sturmtiger. Before we begin, I'd like to open by saying I don't recommend this kit at all. From inferior plastic to shoddy parts design and a bit too much flash for my liking, to poorly labelled sprues and sections that go together absolutely terribly, I'd like to say that other brands such as Ryfield or Italeri are better contenders, though Ryfield's kit will come at a higher cost. Now, not to be entirely negative, I do enjoy the motion of the wheels and fairly workable suspension, which is always neat to fiddle with. As for the tank itself, the Sturmtiger is a brilliant example of weird and mythical stories, such as one round being fired from a Sturmtiger in the war and managing to take out a platoon of Shermans. This makes for a pretty amusing myth, but ultimately has no proof of it ever taking place as far as I can recall. Though a bit closer to home, upon showing this tank to a mate years ago, he was convinced it didn't exist due to the ridiculous gun it sported. After a while I proved that it did exist, and funny enough, he had an easier time believing the absurd story I came up with how it was loaded. The dribble I fed him was that during the Second World War, Germany couldn't field their Olympian lifters due to the sheer size of them, so they mainly worked in munitions factories until desperation kicked in. This had the non-existent powerlifters assigned to Sturmtigers as loaders, where they would be manually loading each round as there was no other way. This is of course pure, unbelievable nonsense, but he took the bait immediately. I did tell him after a while and had a good laugh when I explained how it was actually loaded, but the thought is just absolutely hilarious. Starting off, the lower section of the Tiger is fairly typical for a late Tiger, with the exception of a spring system for the idler wheels, which is pretty neat and unique to AFV Club, I believe. The application of the wheels is a bit strange but works out nicely, using the flexibility of the suspension to fit them in as you go. Now to touch on the engine deck section for a moment, it's horrible. The layout is terribly designed, with the rearmost section being way too flimsy and having way too much connection to the sprue. I don't know why it's done like this, and it's the first Tiger kit I've seen like this. The superstructure is strange, having extra and unnecessary plates that could have been avoided, and a roof that needs quite a lot of trimming and sanding to fit, much more than a kit should need. You will also need clamps to get the structure tight when it's being fitted to the hull, as there's pretty hefty gaps otherwise. Photo etching for the barrel is a pain in the neck, which needs a pen jammed in just to ensure it's set smooth and correctly. Another point is when you are clipping parts from the sprue, and you're being gentle about it, you're running the risk of damaging them, as the inferior plastic that's used is very brittle, and it happened a lot to me during the build. Pricing wise, this kit retails for around $60 here in Australia, but for that price I'd opt to get the Italeri Sturmtiger, as it goes for about the same price, comes with molded Zimmerit, and has a much better build process, with only the tracks being the weak point in my opinion. As for my Sturmtiger here, I think that this example will get the basic museum Dunkelgelb treatment and not much beyond that, but I will be doing a Sturmtiger by Ryfield at some point and will be done with a nice paint job. And that's about it for this one. I hope this video was of some use to you. Until the next one, cheers!